Shalom. My name is Zijelczer. I am the fourth of five children of David and Sarah Deitch. For this, I'm forever grateful to the Eibishter for having such parents. When my daughter Hindi was doing a school play, so the concept of it was footsteps, meaning that where your heel is coming from, so it's pointing your toe in the right direction. We live in Israel. This is part of Israel. It's called jet fighters. It's better than bombs, right? It's a gamhaya. When my daughter Hindi was in school, so they had a school play, and the theme was footsteps, meaning that from where you're coming from, where your heel is coming from, it's going to naturally point your toe in the direction, in the right direction. Okay, meaning that where your great-grandparents came from, where your grandparents came from, where your parents are coming from, this is the direction that hopefully your footsteps will take you. Where the heel is coming from, your toes will continue the same way. And my mother, the mama, we called her the mama because it was a respectful, we spoke only Yiddish in the house, and the respectful way of saying, talking about your parents was saying, the mama, der tata, and this is the way we were brought up. Anyway, the mama was born in Zlobin to a Frum family. The Zayda Motche and the Baba Echaya were hardworking Jews, nice Frum family, and they were from a Frum family. They were from, I'll do this, and it says, the mama was born in Zlobin, which is near Gomel, which is in White Russia. Now, she was born to a Frum family, the Zayda Motche, the Baba Chaya, hardworking people trying to make out a living. They were not Lubavitch. Later on, when my parents were married, my mother did become a Lubavitch chassid right away. She felt very connected to the Frierdiker Rebbe's ways and the Lubavitcher ways. And she became a chassidist like everybody, like all of us, hopefully. Towards the end of World War II, all the Jews, a lot of Jews came to Samarkand during the war, and towards the end of the war, the Lubavitchers received a message from the Frierdiker Rebbe to leave Russia. As many as could possible should leave Russia. This was done through different emissaries of the Frierdiker Rebbe. In fact, by the way, as a side story, one of the wives of this emissary told me a story. She says, right after the war, when they left Samarkand, this couple ended up in Moscow. And she tells the story. They lived in this small communal apartment in Moscow with a few other families. And one day they receive a postcard. It's a postcard from America, from Brooklyn, New York, from Rabbi Jacobson. It's a postcard, not in an envelope. And she was worried, and next day, in a few hours, the next day, who knows when, then Kavades coming to take them away to Siberia. Also being connected to America, also to a Frum Jew in Brooklyn. She was they were obviously very worried. And the nest was that nothing happened. Nobody came, and they didn't take. This is one of the small miracles from the Frierdiker Rebbe, but that's a whole other story. In the postcard, Rabbi Jacobson wrote that the Zayde vart für seine Chassidim. No, I'm sorry. In the postcard, it was written that the Zayde vart für seine Einiklach, meaning in English, the grandfather is waiting for his grandchildren. Meaning, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe, is waiting for his Chassidim. This was the green light to go ahead and move as many Jews as possible out of Russia. I'm sure there was other ways that the Rebbe communicated, but this is the one that I know of. Anyway, my mother, being a Hasidista, went with her husband and her husband's family all together. They went blindly, following the shaliach, what the shaliach told them. And it was very vague, because there was not one person. It was a very covert sort of situation. And she had to leave her family. She was begging her mother, her siblings, to please come to join this group of Hasidim and leave with them. But they were too afraid. It was very frightening to do this. It was a matter of going into the unknown. And there would be obvious danger. Going through, you have to go through illegally through different borders, and nobody really knew what to expect. But being followers of the Rebbe said to do it. The Hasidim did it. They left. And for my mother, like I said, it was very hard. There wasn't a question of knowing I'll call my mother tomorrow. I'll come visit them. I'll visit my family next year. Nobody knew if there would ever be a connection with America and USSR. But the Rebbe said, that's what you do. And the fact was, she didn't hear from her family, know anything about her family for about 8 years. And then it was only indirectly till they finally started corresponding, but also very vaguely. It was very neutral letters. And that's the way it was till she was able to see them many years later. So anyway, so one of the reasons, when years later, Meir and myself were advised to come to Israel for a year. As it turned out, we were 36 years, but we were advised to come for a year, so it wasn't a question in our mind. It was easy. After what my parents went through, what our parents went through, and the different situations, it was actually a fun experience. It wasn't difficult. There was no question about it. This is, what we see is what you hopefully you try to follow. Or you absorb it in your mentality somehow. Anyway, the first memories I do have of my parents would be when our whole family moved to Norwalk, Connecticut. Norwalk, Connecticut is middle America. They didn't know what a from Jew was. They didn't know what an immigrant was. They had no idea with our customs. We had no idea with their customs. But that's where we ended up moving, because my grandfather had 2 brothers there in Norwalk, Connecticut, and 1 brother in Springfield, Massachusetts. So the whole Deitch family ended up moving, all 4 families, that was the whole Deitch family then, ended up moving to Norwalk, Connecticut. We received a small apartment. And there was a tiny Jewish community there, so the community plus the family that we had there was able to get together some old furniture and some used clothes, whatever, and that's how we started. My mother didn't know how to sew, but somebody from the community was willing to teach her, and he taught her how to upholster the armchair. She didn't know how to sew. She didn't know how to make anything. And the first thing she did was upholster this armchair, and it was beautiful. But this was her attitude all through life. Like, you make nothing, it's not about poor me. It's being happy with what you have and thanking David 100 times a day for being here and not somewhere else. And you make the best of it. And that was her attitude all through life. And hopefully that's what she gave us.